Good morning, and screw the last day. You all are here, and this is the first day of your entrepreneurial journey, and this is the first day for us, you and me, to talk about the future of mobility. I am insisting that you leave inspired, but I guess that's my job right now to make sure that that happens. So we'll kick it off. I'm going to talk about some pretty techie, wonky stuff, but we're going to go on a journey today. And that journey is about shaping the mobility revolution that's all around us. Every one of you arrived in some form of vehicle. I know that because most people don't walk from their hometowns to San Francisco today, even if your hometown is San Francisco. Uber, Lyft, BART, cab, if you still know what that is, and then your own personally driven vehicle. These are the ways we get along. And what's interesting is that most of us just don't think about how that hardware gets made. And it's actually the way that that hardware gets made that defines whether it's safe and defines whether it's what you want in order to be able to use it. So we're going to talk about that. In the last decade, all of the top-line products have been disrupted by digital. You recognize, most of you recognize, hopefully some of you don't even recognize the ones at the top, and then the ones at the bottom you definitely know. And there's a digital thread that runs through those products that we just assume is now something that we understand. And that makes sense to us. But these products, they're different. They haven't been disrupted by digital. These products, vehicles, consumer-driven vehicles, and military vehicles, they kill 5.5 people a week in the United States due to distracted driving. And for all of you that have a phone up right now that are taking a picture, it's that phone that causes most of what used to be called drunk driving. But we don't question it. That's the same number of people that got killed in the Boeing 737 first crash that happened. And then by the second one, what did we do? We grounded the whole fleet. But we don't ground our consumer cars today for killing the same number of people every week. Why? Why? We need to change that. And so for us, that record starts with powering a new form of manufacturing. Thank you, Henry Ford, for giving us, and Frederick Taylor, and Sakichi Toyota, and all of these lions of manufacturing. Thank you for giving us what we have today, but the end result of that is what Tesla is. Big factory, lots of money, and big risk to be able to put out a vehicle. But it doesn't keep pace with technology. So the problem right now is that we have old business models trying to apply technology that moves at the speed of software. And so we need to get that technology, sensors, batteries, drives, fabrics, IoT, everything that you've heard about and think is whiz-bang, but doesn't show up in the Lincoln Navigator that you drive in. We need to think about how to evolve that. And for us, the way that solution came about is, one, get efficient. Efficient in the way you apply capital. Reduce the billion-dollar cost of putting out a vehicle to zero. That was our irrational assumption when we started. No tooling cost. Make it a digital file, hit a button, vehicle pops out. Sounds unreasonable, but you're going to see how it happens today. Integrate, integrate, integrate. Integrate with regulators. Integrate with tech providers. Integrate with service providers. Steve Case wrote a book about it that was aping Alvin Toffler. How many of you have read Steve Case's latest book when it comes to the subject of the future of work or Industry 4.0. Anyone? Hands? A few. Okay, so learning about how these new Industry 4.0 businesses actually come to the forefront is what lets you know how to do agile hardware and collaboration. You can't be just 30 programmers in a room, launch a product over the wire, and say you've built a company. These are things that carry people, children, adults, other things like that, and they need to integrate, and they need to collaborate. But if you do it all, you can have a first mover advantage, and you can launch vehicles and launch the next vehicle, and that's what we're talking about. So a digital OEM, to us, connects our three major elements by a digital thread. A global community of people. Talk about a community, what that means. Direct digital manufacturing that's protected as an idea. It's chemical engineering, it's computer science, it's the I can hit a button and a new mobility solution pops out the other side. If you were here on the first day and you heard about that moment when Brad Templeton walked in, well, I think Rob Nail was talking about it with a self-driving car, or it might have been David Roberts, and basically the bottom line was everybody unloaded from the Singularity University classroom to see what is a self-driving car. That's what you feel like when you see a vehicle being digitally manufactured. It's an amazing moment. And then microfactories. Put these things all over the world at low capital cost so you can recycle locally, upgrade locally, instead of shipping vehicles from Detroit. That's what makes you a digital OEM. If you're an economist, I'm not even going to try for that one, but if you're an economist, this is the story that's going on under the covers. So I'll walk over here to the screen so that you can see. Typically, the cost curve goes from the top left to the bottom right. Tons of money up front, and you hope to make 20,000 vehicles a year at a minimum, maybe 300,000 vehicles a year. But that assumes that consumers want to buy what you're selling. The ability to be able to not go all the way back up the cost curve, but to go a little bit back up the cost curve is what we do. So there's no smoke and mirrors here. Our development of the vehicle is cheap, but our individual piece part cost is a little more expensive. This is illustrative, it's not to scale. But what it means is that we can make vehicles at 1,000 units, and now we figured out how to do it at 200 units profitably. So the price we charge for our vehicles allows us to make money and introduce technology way sooner. This is the microeconomic angle for what we've discovered in digital manufacturing. And so here's a mantra that I love. Ignore the world when you make your product, and the world is going to ignore your product. But if you make what they ask for, they're going to pay you in loyalty. Motorola had a StarTAC. Does anyone remember those? $175, 2006. It was the best cell phone on the market. And they made an 8% EBITDA margin. Apple came in 2007 and said, we're going to charge $700 for a phone. Totally irrational. And they have sustained a 34% EBITDA margin. That's possible because you're delivering against a need, a want, a desire for people to have more than what the StarTAC offered. Vehicles need to do that. So there's some whys. Having a digital manufacturer for the user means you get customization, you get choice, you get freedom. But for the company, the business, you also get to do some interesting things. You get to think about people, planet, and profit. When people ask me about sustainability in vehicles, they're always thinking about tailpipe emissions. But that is a low target for a vehicle. Electric vehicles have solved that problem. And so there are many things in sustainability that go beyond that. Local living economies, the disruption that happens in jobs in big manufacturing, factory intensity, paint shops, other things like that, non-recyclability of vehicles, the future of battery recyclability. This is about our planet that we live on. And when I was born, there were half the number of people in the world that there are today. Think about that exponential growth. And so therefore, shared mobility is axiomatic. We have to have it. We need to be more shared in the way we think about moving around. And businesses that can deliver that can change the planet. So that's the impact. So this is how we do it. We built a global community. It now has 200,000 people in it that help us design our vehicles. That global community believes in our brand, that if you can tell us what you want, we're going to print it, make it, and deliver it all over the world. And then we built our network of microfactories, which is growing. We have 2, and we're about to launch a 3rd. So Knoxville, Tennessee, and Phoenix, Arizona are our first 2 factories. And upcoming in September, we're going to announce our new European microfactory location. And we're going to start growing in Asia and a number of other places around the world to bring this. And so it is underpinned by this subject. Agile hardware for us is what it's about. Now, Agile software started 25 or 30 years ago, and there was a manifesto that we have carefully crafted in order to be able to look at what that future is. And this is really where you can help us evangelize what it is that we've done. The values. I don't love lists, but this list is these 2 slides are very important for us. The values are about changing the way, the white is where we used to be. And so when you think about creativity and people and communities and client dialogue and the world of a minimum viable product, this is what Agile hardware needs to be. The last one is one that I want to focus on here, which is responsibly iterating to get to greater safety. So we heard from David Roberts that the moment that a first toy flew up to the ceiling, that you saw the joy in a child's face, and that begot what we have at Gatwick Airport today. The single greatest transportation revolution born on a set of principles that was about joy and not solving a problem. Today, I run into regulators, especially in the United States, that say, I love the technology in autonomous vehicles. I love connectedness in vehicles. We're totally going to launch them when they're 100% safe. Bullshit. 100% safety is a way to stop innovation from happening. If that toy were 100% safe when the Wright brothers were taking it off, we wouldn't have Gatwick Airport today. So thinking about responsibly iterating to greater safety is where we as citizenry need to go. Distracted driving is one problem that we have, but also the bigger problem is the loss of productivity we have in GDP for the amount of time that you spend behind the wheel of a vehicle, not being able to sleep, not being able to put on your makeup, not being able to think, not being able to be angry or be happy or other things like that that might distract you. Giving that back to your productivity can uplift the whole world just by the time you lose in transportation. And for those people that sit in the back of an Uber, you're slightly better, but you still don't have Wi-Fi. You're still arguing with the driver to turn down the music or turn up the air or do whatever it is. We can do so much better. And so for us, this list of agility in hardware, these values are what we promote in everything that we do. Now, the principles are really important for us too. So building a process that generates insights and not requirements is important. And making space for new perspectives by everyone. We run diversity and inclusion at our business like it was something that was axiomatic with our products, because building trust and being able to say, I'm going to make a mobility device for everyone needs to mean that you are thinking as a company with a global community of people about all perspectives. And those perspectives should be able to come in late in the game in launching a product. People are sitting in your minimum viable product and they tell you, I don't like this feature. You better change it before you launch. And that's what a digital manufacturer can do. So these are some of the items that come down. And I want to focus a little bit further down the list in number 8. Generating quality through quantity of ideas. Anybody who plays football on the pitch or soccer in America understands that shots on goal is what counts. You make the goalkeeper more fearful, you put the pressure on, and something's gonna go in the net. So that's something that we work on very hard, is to make sure that we are increasing the shots on goal and not looking for perfection in every shot that we take. And that is what allows you as a digital manufacturer to distinguish yourself. So here's Ollie. Ollie is our first step. It's an autonomous platform. It's focused on local mobility. And this vehicle is open, it's upgradable. It's not the only shuttle in the market. BYD makes some electric shuttles driven by a driver. And then there are a couple of companies out there that are making low-speed self-driving shuttles. Some people take a golf cart because they don't know how to make a vehicle, and they put their self-driving sensors and software on it, and they call themselves a vehicle maker. That's a start, but that's a software integrator looking to make on a golf cart. These vehicles are capable of keeping you happy, keeping you safe, keeping you comfortable, and doing a lot more things in terms of what the customers are asking us for inside the vehicle and out of the vehicle on a pace where every 6 months, these vehicles, hardware and software-wise, software every day, but hardware every 6 months, they're getting better. So for us, launching a level 4 autonomous vehicle and deploying it all over the world right now, we're in 10 cities. So if people ask me, when will I see an autonomous vehicle? Right now. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. So if you want to go to Copenhagen, you want to go to Korea, you want to go to Australia, you want to go to Buffalo, New York, Akron, Ohio, here in Northern California, you can ride in one of our autonomous vehicles right now. They're out there. If you want to see that vehicle getting 3D printed, you can go see it at a Microfactory. But if you ask an executive at Tesla or Toyota, can I see you do that? Their answer is going to be no. It's not safe. We haven't figured it out yet. Those products aren't wanted by consumers. And you should ask questions and say, is that an acceptable answer for me? Agile platforms for hardware are where we're going. So if you look across the 6 areas of this vehicle, perception, structure, HMI, cognition, drives, onboard systems, these are some companies that you would recognize, like you recognize Goodyear and you might recognize Bosch. But the divisions we work with at Goodyear and Bosch are not your standard divisions. They're not the billion-dollar divisions that are pumping in-vehicle infotainment systems or current, 235 slash 15 ZR18 tires onto a Corvette. No. These are the divisions that are trying to change the future at these big companies. And often they don't get the airtime from their boss, but they get airtime from us. And they ride on our vehicles. If you go to Akron, Ohio, you can see Goodyear running non-pneumatic tires, tires that have no air. You see Protean providing hub motors in our vehicles that are whisper quiet. And if you don't know what a hub motor is, it means all the stuff that used to be under your hood or in a Tesla, all the stuff that's still under the frunk or the rear that's a motor is gone. And it sits inside the tire. So all that room, the inverter and the motor and the cooling, all happens there. Incredible technologies that go on this vehicle right now deployed around the world. And then there's the software side. So we have this interface, I call it a middleware, and a middleware is a way to connect to our vehicle. So today, when our customers get our vehicles and they want access to data, they can plug into Modally and they can get access for how many times a steward took over the vehicle. We do have a steward that rides on our vehicles still. And how many times the vehicle took a left-hand turn, stopped, went, go. The data's available to you. You should be able to see it. It's yours. It deploys in your area and you need to be able to own it. But most importantly, if you're thinking about building services on the connected future, you should be able to build on top of the API that we have. So here's Ollie. We started with a 1.0, and all the way over here in this journey, when we started, this vehicle was developed in 6 months. We put it in a customer's hand, and then a second customer's hand, and we said, do you like it, do you not? We fixed it up, made it what they wanted, and then we deployed it. And then what we did is we said, let's start again, and let's rev the vehicle, and let's go to Ollie 2.0. And we did that in 6 months. So where I stand right here was 6 months of work. Hub motors, new sensors, new drives, new battery, new glass, new crash structure, a totally new vehicle from this one over here. And it took us 6 months to get here and put the new customer in it. If I were a traditional automotive company, this is how long it would take me to do that. I'm still walking. And I would tell you I'm fast. This is Elon Musk right now. And if I was Toyota, can you still hear me? Okay, you get my point. And for us to take the rest, you wonder what happens in the rest of the 6 months. The rest of the 6 months is to commercialize it. People love to tell us, but you're a prototype manufacturer, you 3D print vehicles. No, we're a small volume manufacturer that makes vehicles out of microfactories, and we take 6 months to show you what you want, fix it up, make it right, and then we're deploying from our microfactories here. No more prototypes. This is small volume manufacturing. And that's what the speed of a microfactory can give you. So a microfactory for us is small. A traditional automotive factory is about 1 million square feet under roof. But a microfactory is units of 10,000 square feet. Never do math in public. But if you multiply 10,000 by 100, you get 1 million. So if I wanted to have 100 microfactory lines, I would have the same footprint as a big factory. Some factories today, like the Mercedes-Benz factory in Sindelfingen, are 14 million square feet under roof for production. Paint shop and vehicle lines that put out the S-Class. They're marvels of 120 years of an integration engineering mindset, but it is a mass factory. So instead of 100 times a microfactory, that's 1,400 times a microfactory. We just published an article, I'm so proud of our team, this month in Manufacturing Tomorrow that shows that at that scale, we can now increase beyond the output of Mercedes-Benz using our microfactory line. We can make them faster, we can make them more, and we can iterate more vehicles. So we have fully crossed over the ability to disrupt mass manufacturing on a unit-by-unit scale with a microfactory. That's an enormous achievement. It's taken us a decade to get there of strong chemical, computer science, and customer work. And a microfactory looks like this. It can be in your hometown. So if you are from Tirana, Albania, or if you are from Munich, Germany, or if you are from Sydney, if you are from a town or a country where you lost your automaking capability, like Sicily, this kind of factory can be what brings local living economy jobs back in the highest technology vehicles that are there. They're amazing things to come and look at, and I encourage you, they're open for you to come and visit, and they are truly a breath of fresh air about the future of where modern vehicles come from. We start with chemical engineering, and we move on to make vehicles that are both printed, milled, and robotically assembled, with a lot of human content too. And this is what the leaving is. Thank you. In case you didn't get a look at it enough, that's what 3D printing the future looks like. And for those of you that operate or have kids or parents that operate 3D printers, that's moving at the speed of a new digital generation. And we power that. In the next couple of minutes, the final minutes that we have, I'm going to take you through the rest of the journey, which one of my initial board members and investors said back when I started the company: imagine you're right. Imagine that you can print the future. When we started, you couldn't print the future. But he said, what if you can get it right? Never be surprised when the best laid plans actually work. And so he said, how are you going to get the best ideas? Where are they going to come from? How are you going to find the Goodyear non-pneumatic tire? How are you going to find Bosch's latest radar? And how are you going to find a design for Ollie? So co-creation was what was the outgrowth of that challenging question. Opening up our global community to say, this is our brand. We're going to digitally manufacture vehicles, but will you help us? Give us your best ideas. And not just as a designer or an engineer or as a company, but even if you're a regulator. What's your biggest problem? Can you come and have an open conversation with us? So we built this website, launchforth.io is what it is. It comes from the idea of launching forth to new horizons. And launchforth.io is the part of our business which runs challenges. And we put those in a laboratory, if you will, and I'm going to show you just a little bit about it. Traditional supply chains really work in a way where they go very linearly. But today at Launchforth, what we do is we work a digital innovation cycle. And what that means is the crowd is the green dot for us on the outside. They know that digital manufacturing exists in the blue cycle on the inside. And they constantly have wild and crazy ideas about regulation and design and engineering and other things like that. And I like to think about this as an onion. The outsides of an onion are leafy. And they're able to catch and attract air and other things like that. But when you get to the middle of it, it's very, very tight. And it's the thing that needs to be insured and keep you safe. So by the time we get to the digital factory and we're making something in the blue inside part of the onion, we are not just doing everything that the green dot wants to do. And that's the way we breathe in a co-creation world. So that digital innovation cycle has allowed us to do some amazing things. The Marine Corps hired us in order to be able to build a modular logistics vehicle. This is what they had. which is a very traditional kind of modified side-by-side golf cart to be able to do it. But this is what we took them through. Co-create, manage the process, and make it, and do it in a 6-month cycle. And so the modular logistics vehicle, they just simply said, give us a hackable vehicle that provides Marines on base with flexibility for their logistics needs. That's a really traditional co-creation launch forth. You call it traditional, it's our version of traditional challenge. And so we went out and we said, what does that mean to you? And they said, well, we want to move people, and we want administrative support, so we want to be able to power computers and printers and do other things like that. And we want to be able to have mechanical support, so we need to be able to do some work out on the ranges and do those kinds of things. And we want to do construction. If they had said this to a global OEM, give me this vehicle, the OEM, if they took the meeting, might have said, you'll see it in 10 years, because if you think commercial vehicle development is slow, just look at military vehicle development. I would be outside the building in the amount of time that it took to get there. But more to the point, the OEM would hand them a bill that would say it's $1 billion. This is a program of record and I expect to get paid. So this was the kind of thing that the military had never seen before. And this was our first community member entry. And we got this in 4 weeks. CAD file, wasn't real yet. But then we ran another challenge on the back. And then in 5 weeks, we got this. And then in 1 month, we prototyped the first vehicle and put it in the Marines' hands. And today, we're in phase 3 to take this vehicle to small volume production for bases all over the United States. That's what we can do for the US military. For the world's first 3D printed car, when we started to go back in time, we had an image of building a small runabout that wasn't autonomous but was electric, and we would build it in 50 parts. We ran a challenge. A community member from Italy entered with this entry amongst about 300 other entries, and he won. And this was the first vehicle that we made. And he got in it at Rockefeller Center at the Today Show with me and drove around with Matt Lauer and Carson Daly. And he whispered to me, he said, only in America, who could put a man on the moon, could an Italian be invited to the Today Show to drive a 3D printed car around. That's an awesome sense of curiosity and exponential innovation. And then there's Ollie, which we've been talking about today. We challenged our community to think about mobility in Berlin, and this was the entry that we got out of that. How would you do local mobility in a vehicle in Berlin? This was a Colombian community member who was working in Italy at the time, and he entered this idea. And today, we have Ollie. So this process has worked for us for the Marine Corps. It worked for 3D printing the first little runabout in the world, and it worked for Ollie. And Ollie is now deployed around the world. Orange dots are where we are this year. Black dots are where we're going next year. If it's near one of your hometowns, then come take a ride. But the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. Next up for us is cargo. Curbside delivery. We think it's a super interesting space. Not taking people around, but taking stuff around. Making it more bespoke to where you need it instead of I'm taking it to your home or your work and those are the only 2 addresses that I can handle. So that's DHL, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, that kind of thing. But making logistics of either fresh and perishables or other things like that work. And we see a couple companies that are out there doing it. They have little bots that are on a sidewalk and they have small bots that are on the street. None of them are digital manufacturers. And looking what you want is really the most important thing for getting this in. So we are currently in the process of running a Launch Forth challenge called the Curbside Delivery Challenge. Come join. Go to launchforth.io. It's free to join and give us your feedback. And so next up in September, we're going to be working with the US Navy on this thing called Hack the Machine. So we're working on what disabled ships can do in order to be able to 3D print the parts that they need for disabled ships at sea in order to be able to make the Navy stronger. So mobility doesn't just have to be on the ground. And you're going to see some new things being announced from us coming up in September, coincident with our new Microfactory, that are going to take mobility to new places other than just the ground. So for us, mobility is unbundling and it's changing. There is a mobility revolt that is happening. People, places, and paradigms are evolving, and there are shifting mobility needs. I promised you a journey today. I hope that you are not only inspired, but questioning about the mobility that you ride in today and what your hometown, wherever you're from, can do to provide a local living economy that does better than what Tesla, Ford, Toyota, Tata can bring us today, because that future is here and it's just not evenly distributed. So thank you very much and welcome to the future.